Hello, welcome to How to Play You Only Dice Twice. Yeah, this is a free game for 2 players, a roll and write. You'll need 6 dice, the score sheet, and something to write with. And hey, that's everything we have there. Now I've colored and circled each of the mark limits for each number. This corresponds with how many points they're worth as well, which I didn't color, but you'll see later in the game. So the first player is going to go ahead and roll the dice, and he's going to pick 3 dice that he wants, and he can combine these dice into 1, 2, or 3 different categories. He chooses to combine into 2 categories. He combined the 6 and the 5 to form an 11, and the 4 to form a 4. Now, player 2 then takes their turn. They had the ability to use the 3 ones as 3 different ones, or they could have done a combination of a 2 and a 1, or done one single 3. So they chose instead to do 3 ones. So this is going to go back and forth like this until we have a row that gets completed. When it reaches the mark limit, you have completed the row. That means all play stops and you do your mid-game scoring, which, depending on how the players play, could come sooner or later. When you do mid-game scoring, you're getting the victory points for each row if you have the lead in that row. So it's somewhat important to get as many points as possible. Just depends on how you play this game and who you're playing it with. Some players might try to force that mid-game early and then not get as many points, but just try to force it early. The other thing, too, to take into account with this is after the mid-game scoring, you're going to have in-game scoring. In-game scoring is worth twice the victory points. So it depends on who you're playing, how many times you played this game, as far as what your strategy will be. But it's a very simple game. You combine 3 dice and you basically write the number of marks down depending on how you group them. Now in this case you could have done a 6, you could have done a 4 and 2 ones, or you could have done a 4 and a 2. Now the whatever remaining dice go to the next player. They decide what they want to take. Now there are 3 special abilities down at the bottom of the sheet we have to talk about, and as the game gets to them, we will come to them. So now player 2 has decided to use a 12 and a 4. Now player 1 gets the leftover dice. He does 3 2s. So now we see player 1 has rolled. Now player 2 is going to take the choose. He's going to choose to take the dice. That basically interrupts the first player's turn. You can only do that when it's not your turn. It's basically a way to wrestle control over the dice away from the roller. So in this case, they took a 12 and a 1, and that ended the first row, and then we finished the round, and player 2 has finished the 2s. So now we're going to get how many victory points for each mark, and we made a mistake there. It's not 8. We were looking at the row limit, not the actual victory points. So instead, we both score 16 there. Player 1 scores 16, player 2 scores 16 for locking out the 1 row. And then we go to see who has the lead. Now, if there's a tie, we disregard it. And then we write down the totals. We got 40 points to 28 points in the first game. So now we're going to begin the rest of the game. Now, for the rest of the game, we're trying to get 7 rows locked out. So we have 5 more to go. 5 more rows get locked out, and then we do in-game scoring. So now we're going to do an adjustment. Player 1's decided to adjust. That means he could add 1 or subtract 1 from the row. So he decides to add a 3. So now he gets 3 3s. So now he's crossed off that row, and player 2 decided to take the 4s, and he gets the 4s done. So now we have 4 rows completed, 3 more, and the game ends. So now player 2 rolls the dice because player 1 chose to choose earlier, and that wrestled control away. So now player 1's roll again, and he takes 3 5s and is very close to closing out the 5s. Now once you use those special powers, you cannot use them for the rest of the game. They are gone, so you have to cross them off. And that basically left player 1 with no choice there. He had 3 1s. The 1s have been locked out. So now the 12s get locked out by player 1. So now we're at 5 rolls locked. And play continues like this until we get to 7. So this is a pretty fun free dice game. You could make the sheet yourself, or you could just download from the Board Game Geek site, which I have linked in the description. We really enjoy it. It's one of those games that, because it's not sold in a box, nobody knows it exists, and yet it costs nothing to play. Chances are, if you own Quicks, you own this game. You just need the score sheet and the rules, which you pretty much can memorize from this video alone. And what I like about it is it's similar to Counter Cameroon and a lot of Knizia games, but it's added a bit more of strategy to it, knowing that you have mid-game scoring and end-game scoring. And each game's going to be different based on the dice rolls alone, and the choices that each individual player makes. And something so fun like this could easily be boxed up and sold, but it's not. And it fits in that compartment of this is a mainstream game. It's got the simplicity of a mainstream game, does not take a lot of time to learn, can be played at a bar over some chips. And so now we've ended the game. We've gotten all 7 rows, so now it's time to go ahead and score. So if you have the lead, you score double the victory points for that row. That's why that 7 there only had 1 mark, but it got 8 points. And then you add up the scores. So I think in this case I double checked my math because I'm pretty terrible at mental arithmetic. And now looks like player 1, I'm guessing, is going to be the winner. Yep, he's the winner. So I did not show you an example of duplicate in this game, just for whatever reason, didn't think to use it. Probably had a good opportunity to, and just didn't think of it. So let's say you roll the dice and you want to use duplicate. So now with that 6 you could form a 10 or an 8, and with a 5 you could form a 6 or a 9. And you could do both of those. You could do a 6 and a 9 doing that. You could only do that once per game. And like always, if you know of a game that you want to see demonstrated that's you can't find a video of it anywhere else, but you have the written rules, send them to me in the comments. I'm always on the hunt for games to demonstrate. And if you want to meet up and play cards, which apparently nobody in the world does at the moment, go ahead and come to the Reddit subreddit Card Game Meetups. We need new members. We want people to post their cities, what games they know, what they're willing to play. Let's meet up. Let's play some card games. Let's have fun again.